Chapter 1. A Fateful Encounter. The neon lights of Las Vegas danced across the night sky like a mesmerizing painting, but Amelia Hart only felt an odd emptiness. Clad in an elegant black dress, she sat quietly at the bar of the Bellagio Hotel, where the opulence seemed to consume all sorrows. Before her was a Manhattan cocktail, its vibrant red color evoking memories that now felt like searing pain. Just days ago, Amelia's life had been perfect, like a dream come true. As an up-and-coming fashion designer in Paris, she had built her name through critically acclaimed collections. She had a fiancé, Charles Beaumont, whom she believed was her destined partner, and a best friend, Sophia Duval, who had shared every joy and sorrow. But in one fateful morning, everything shattered. She discovered that Charles and Sophia had betrayed her. The news of their impending wedding was not just a shock, it destroyed every dream she had nurtured. Amelia chose to leave Paris immediately, with nothing but a small suitcase and a heavy heart. She needed a place to escape, where no one knew her or her painful past. Las Vegas seemed like a beckoning call, the city of impulsive decisions, glittering streets, and opportunities for a fresh start. In the warm ambiance of the bar, Amelia's eyes roamed the room, landing on a shadowed corner. There sat a man, solitary yet exuding a strange, magnetic strength. He was swirling a glass of whiskey in his hand, his sharp gaze seemingly piercing through every secret in the room. Henry Blackwood, a renowned British businessman, had come to Las Vegas to escape familial pressure. As the heir to a financial empire, Henry was being forced by his family to marry Elena Cavendish, another wealthy heir. The marriage promised enormous benefits for both families, but for Henry it was nothing more than a cold transaction devoid of love. He had come here to flee, but Amelia's gaze had captured his attention. Henry approached her, his steps measured yet confident. Standing beside her, he set his whiskey on the bar and spoke in a deep, calm voice. "You seem like someone who's searching for something, or perhaps running from something?" Amelia looked up, surprised by the stranger's directness. Her eyes met his, a gaze filled with mystery, yet unusually gentle. "And you," she replied, masking her vulnerability. "What are you looking for here?" Henry gave a faint smile, taking a sip of his whiskey. "I'm not looking for anything, just avoiding things I'd rather not face." His answer struck a chord within her. There was an odd sense of understanding between them. They began to talk, and bit by bit, the walls around their hearts started to come down. Henry spoke about the suffocating expectations of his family, about feeling trapped in a life he couldn't control. Amelia shared her pain of betrayal, the heartbreak of realizing everything she believed in was a lie. As time passed, their laughter drowned out the background noise of the bar. There was something in the air of Las Vegas, in the glow of the lights, that made everything feel lighter. Amelia raised her cocktail glass, her eyes sparkling. "You know, if we really want to forget everything, why not do something crazy?" Henry raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" Amelia chuckled, half joking, half serious. "We could get married right now. It's Las Vegas, after all." She expected him to laugh or brush it off. Instead, Henry set his whiskey down, his gaze turning serious. "All right, let's do it." Amelia froze in disbelief. "You're serious?" Henry nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "I don't see why not. We're both looking for a fresh start, aren't we?" Without hesitation, they left the bar, joining the bustling crowd under the glittering lights of Las Vegas. Outside a small chapel with neon signs blinking, "Marry me tonight," they walked in like dreamers. Standing before Henry, Amelia's heart raced as the faux Elvis priest asked, "Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" She looked at Henry, his gaze filled with determination, but also a surprising tenderness. She smiled, feeling for the first time in days that she could let go of the pain. "I do." Henry took her hand, his voice steady as he replied, "I do too." As they stepped out of the chapel, bathed in the dazzling glow of Las Vegas, they stood still for a moment, absorbing the surreal moment. Amelia turned to Henry and whispered, "What did we just do?" Henry smiled, his eyes glinting with the familiar mystery. "Perhaps the most reckless decision, or the most right one." They walked hand in hand into the night, unaware that what had just happened was not just a whim, but the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. Welcome to today's story. Let us know in the comments which city you're listening from. You might find someone from the same place tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Chapter 2. Unveiling Secrets. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the expansive bed dressed in pristine white linens. Amelia woke with a disorienting feeling. Sitting up, her eyes wandered over the luxurious hotel room. A glittering crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, expensive art pieces adorned the walls, and the faint fragrance of lilies from a vase near the window added to the room's opulence. But what puzzled her most was the fact that she had no memory of booking such a room. As she tried to piece together the previous night, her gaze landed on Henry. He stood near the window, speaking into his phone with a composed air, his figure commanding in a dark suit. His deep voice carried a tone of confidence and authority, with a hint of cold detachment. Amelia pulled the blanket closer, trying to steady herself amidst this strange setting. When Henry ended his call, he turned and met her confused gaze. Smiling softly, he approached the bed, his demeanor far gentler than the composed presence he'd shown a moment ago. "Good morning," Henry greeted, setting his phone down on the nearby table. "I didn't want to wake you. I hope you slept well." "Henry?" Amelia hesitated, unease rising within her. "Where are we? And what's going on?" Henry sat on the edge of the bed, loosening his tie and unbuttoning the top of his shirt. His eyes held a mix of sincerity and apprehension. "I think it's time you knew the truth," he said. Amelia frowned, her pulse quickening. "What truth?" Henry took a deep breath before speaking. "I'm not just an ordinary businessman, Amelia. I'm Henry Blackwood, heir to Blackwood Global, a financial empire spanning Europe and North America. My family controls an empire, and with that comes immense pressure." Amelia froze, her mind reeling. The name Blackwood wasn't unfamiliar. It was often mentioned in global media, associated with multi-billion-dollar deals and enormous influence in the financial world. But never in her wildest thoughts did she imagine that the man she had impulsively married was at the helm of it all. "Why didn't you tell me this from the start?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Henry gave her a small, rueful smile. "Because I wanted you to see me for who I am, not for my name or the fortune behind it. I didn't want those barriers between us, but after last night, I realized I couldn't keep it from you any longer." Amelia studied him, unsure whether to trust him. "And what about the marriage? Was that part of some plan of yours?" Henry shook his head, his expression serious. I didn't plan for any of this. But when you joked about getting married, I realized it might be my only chance to escape my family's expectations. They want me to marry Elena Cavendish, a transactional union with no love involved. But with you, I felt something different, a freedom I've never known before." Amelia's chest tightened. There was something about Henry's words, his honesty, the pain hidden beneath, that she couldn't ignore. Yet the thought of stepping into his opulent and pressure-filled world unnerved her. "Henry, I don't belong in your world," she said quietly but firmly. "I'm just a fashion designer trying to make a name for myself. I don't know how to navigate any of this." Henry took her hand gently, his touch warm and steady. "I'm not sure either, but I do know that I want you here, with me. We're both running from things that have hurt us. Maybe somehow we can find something meaningful together." Amelia remained silent, feeling the warmth of his hand. Despite the overwhelming truth about Henry, she sensed a strange safety in his presence, as though he could be not just a refuge, but someone who could help her rediscover herself. "All right," she finally said, her voice soft. "We can try, but on one condition." "What condition?" Henry asked, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly in a faint smile. "No secrets. If we're going to try to build something from this strange marriage, we have to be honest with each other." Henry nodded, his smile turning genuine. "Honesty, I promise." In that moment, an unspoken bond formed between them. Though neither knew what lay ahead, they resolved to face it together, not only the ghosts of their past, but also the uncertainties of their shared future. Amelia leaned back against the pillows, watching as Henry called room service for breakfast. A fleeting thought crossed her mind. Her life had irreversibly changed the moment she stepped into the Bellagio bar last night. Now the only way forward was to keep moving ahead. Chapter 3. Facing Challenges. Returning to New York, Amelia found herself stepping into a world entirely foreign to her, a realm of excess and grandeur at every turn. Sleek limousines lined the streets, skyscrapers loomed with an aura of authority, and opulent parties brought together some of the most powerful figures in the financial world. This wasn't just Henry's home, it was an arena where unseen forces constantly vied for dominance. And now Amelia was at the center of everyone's attention. From the moment she stepped into the Blackwood estate, a stately mansion nestled in the Upper East Side, Amelia felt the icy atmosphere. Eleanor Blackwood, Henry's mother, greeted her with a smile that was anything but warm. Dressed impeccably in a tailored Chanel dress, Eleanor radiated elegance and control. "Welcome to the Blackwood family, Amelia," Eleanor said, her tone tinged with faint mockery. "I trust you're ready to adapt to this life." Amelia returned the smile politely, though inside she felt scrutinized from head to toe. Throughout the family dinner that evening, Eleanor continued to probe, her sharp questions carrying an air of interrogation. "Where did you and Henry meet?" Eleanor asked, her gaze boring into Amelia. "Las Vegas," Amelia replied calmly, willing her voice to remain steady. "A chance meeting that led to a bold decision." "Bold decisions can be dangerous," Eleanor remarked, her tone cutting, "especially when one doesn't understand the consequences." Henry cut in before Amelia could respond, his protective gaze unwavering. "Mother, Amelia doesn't need to explain anything. Our marriage was a mutual decision." Though Henry consistently stood by her side, Amelia knew it would take more than his support to earn the respect of his formidable family. While Amelia struggled to adjust to her new life, her past relentlessly pursued her. News of her sudden marriage had quickly reached Paris, and Charles and Sophia, the pair who had betrayed her, were determined to meddle in her fresh start. Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls and messages from them. Charles, once sweet and deceitful, now sent desperate messages. "Amelia, I made a mistake. Please give me a chance to make things right." Sophia, her voice dripping with faux remorse, left voicemails. "Amelia, I'm so sorry for everything, but you can't just disappear without talking to me. We've been friends for years." Amelia ignored every call, yet each missed call and text added to the weight pressing down on her. It felt as though her past and present were colliding, leaving her caught in the suffocating middle. The media only intensified the pressure. Sensational headlines plastered across tabloids and websites speculated about her motives. Amelia Hart, Cinderella or gold digger? Heir to the Blackwood fortune, love or strategy? Every event she attended with Henry became a battlefield of flashing cameras and veiled questions from reporters. "Amelia, how does it feel to go from an unknown designer to a member of the Blackwood family? Do you have a response to accusations that you're taking advantage of Henry?" Amelia held her composure and smiled through it all, but inside she felt as though she were balancing on a tightrope, constantly at risk of falling. Through it all, Henry remained steadfast. He saw the strain in her eyes, no matter how much she tried to hide it. One evening, after returning from an event, Henry entered their room with 2 cups of tea in hand. "You don't owe them any explanations," he said, sitting beside her. "They don't know who you are, and they have no right to judge you." Amelia looked at him, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I'm scared, Henry. I'm scared I'm not strong enough to handle all of this." Henry took her hands, his grip firm yet reassuring. "You're stronger than you think. You left behind a painful past and started a new life. Don't let them make you doubt yourself." His words felt like a balm, easing the turmoil in her heart. Yet Amelia knew that surviving in this world required more than emotional support. She needed to prove to herself and to everyone else that she wasn't weak or dependent. Alone in their hotel suite, under the soft glow of the lights, Amelia gazed at her reflection in the mirror. She thought about her dreams as a young girl in Paris, to be a fashion designer who created works that touched people's hearts. She realized she couldn't let whispers, Eleanor's judgment, or the specter of Charles and Sophia overshadow her ambitions. Taking a deep breath, her eyes lit with renewed determination. "If this world wants to challenge me, I'll prove them wrong." Stepping out of the room, she began her journey, not only to earn the world's recognition, but also to rediscover the strong, capable woman she knew she could be. Chapter 4. Building Trust. Amelia no longer wanted to bear the label of temporary wife or gold digger. She resolved to prove that she deserved her place, not only within the Blackwood family, but also in the fiercely competitive world of fashion. The passion for design that she once thought she had lost now became her guiding light, helping her rise and fight for herself. Amelia spent weeks meticulously planning a fashion show with a charitable purpose. With financial support from Henry, she began to turn her vision into reality. The venue was carefully chosen, a chic art space in the heart of Manhattan that perfectly reflected the blend of classic and modern themes she wanted to convey. Throwing herself into work, Amelia personally designed every outfit, selecting every detail to ensure that the show was not just a fashion event, but also a meaningful statement. Her collection drew inspiration from resilience and hope, featuring bright colors and refined tailoring that symbolized renewal. Though Henry was swamped with responsibilities at Blackwood Global, he made time to support her. He not only provided financial backing, but also helped promote the event. His introductions allowed Amelia to connect with major sponsors and renowned celebrities, elevating the show to an unmissable occasion. However, not everyone was supportive. Eleanor Blackwood remained skeptical. She viewed Amelia's efforts as a calculated move for attention. "Charity is a clever way to improve one's image," Eleanor remarked to Henry during a family dinner. "But is she doing this out of genuine goodwill or just to impress others?" Henry's voice was steady but firm as he responded, "You don't know Amelia, Mother. She doesn't need to prove herself to anyone, least of all to those who can't see the sincerity of her actions." For the first time, Henry realized he felt more than sympathy for Amelia. He was proud of her. Her relentless efforts to reclaim her identity made him admire her even more. Amidst their busy schedules, Amelia and Henry began sharing moments of heartfelt connection. Late-night conversations in their luxurious penthouse became a bridge between two guarded souls. Henry, who had long hidden his emotions behind a composed exterior, opened up about the immense pressure he faced. As the sole heir to Blackwood Global, he was expected to be flawless in the eyes of both his family and society. "I always have to make the right decisions," he admitted, staring thoughtfully out the window. "I can't afford to make mistakes. But with you, I feel like I can falter. I can be vulnerable, and it doesn't make me any less in your eyes." Amelia, too, shared her past pain. She spoke of the betrayal by Charles and Sophia, the loneliness and aimlessness she felt when she had to leave Paris, the city she once called home. "I never thought I'd trust anyone again," she confessed, her voice trembling. "But you're different. You make me feel like I deserve to be loved." The day of the fashion show finally arrived. The venue was adorned with soft lighting and elegant arrangements, with rows of seats perfectly arranged to welcome hundreds of esteemed guests. When the models began showcasing Amelia's collection on the runway, the audience was captivated. Each piece told a story, not just of fashion, but of resilience and hope. Amelia's closing speech moved many to tears. "This show isn't just about a dream of fashion. It's a reminder that from pain, we can create beauty, and that anyone, no matter where they come from, can transform their life." Standing at the back of the room, Henry watched her with pride. He couldn't take his eyes off Amelia, the woman who had refused to crumble under hardship and had proven her worth through her talent and heart. After the show, as they returned home, exhausted but exhilarated, Amelia sank into the sofa, her hands trembling with emotion. "I did it," she whispered, a radiant smile spreading across her face. "I really did it." Henry sat beside her, taking her hands in his. "You didn't just do it. You made the world take notice. I'm so proud of you, Amelia." As their eyes met, both of them felt a deeper realization. What had started as an impulsive marriage to escape their respective burdens had grown into something meaningful. They didn't need flowery words or grand promises. In that serene moment, their presence alone spoke volumes. They understood that between them, a genuine love was beginning to blossom. Are you still following Olivia's incredible journey? Share your thoughts and emotions about her story in the comments below. We'd love to hear what moment resonated with you the most. Chapter 5. Turmoil from the Past. Amelia entered the grand Upper East Side mansion, hand in hand with Henry, the opulence of the high society gala sparkling around her. Chandeliers cast their golden glow over the room. Violins played a soft melody, and laughter rippled among the elegantly dressed guests. Though Amelia had grown accustomed to events like these, tonight brought an inexplicable sense of unease. She couldn't have known that this fateful evening would confront her with shadows of her past. As she and Henry mingled with a group of influential attendees, a voice she hadn't heard in months suddenly cut through the air. "Amelia, is that really you?" She turned, her heart momentarily stopping. Standing before her were Charles and Sophia, the two people who had caused her so much pain. Charles, still as polished and self-assured as ever, met her gaze with a faint smirk. Beside him, Sophia stood in an extravagant gown, her smile brimming with calculated confidence. "Well, this is a surprise," Charles said, his tone smooth yet tinged with arrogance. "I hear you've gotten married. Quite a whirlwind decision, wasn't it?" Amelia maintained her composure, her polite smile unwavering. "Charles, Sophia, what an unexpected encounter. I didn't realize you were in New York." Sophia tilted her head, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "We've been curious about your new life. It's fascinating to see you've transitioned from Parisian elegance to a marriage full of surprises." Her words dripped with sarcasm, but before Amelia could respond, Henry stepped forward, his calm yet commanding presence silencing the air around them. "My wife doesn't owe anyone an explanation about her life," he said, his voice steady but laced with authority, "especially not to those who betrayed her." Charles faltered for a moment, clearly unsettled by Henry's directness, but quickly masked it with a cool expression. "We were just saying hello. After all, we're old friends." Henry's lips curved into a faint, dismissive smile. "I think Amelia has been more than polite. She doesn't need to waste any more time on the past." As Charles and Sophia reluctantly walked away, Amelia felt her hands trembling slightly. Henry reached for her hand, his expression softening with concern. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. She nodded, though her voice wavered. "I didn't expect to see them again, but thank you for standing up for me." Henry placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his gaze firm yet tender. "Amelia, you don't have to face them alone. I'll always be here to protect you." His words felt like a shield, wrapping her in a sense of safety she hadn't known in a long time. For the first time, she truly felt cared for and supported. From across the room, Eleanor Blackwood observed the interaction with a mixture of surprise and intrigue. She had always seen Henry as an independent man who rarely displayed his emotions. Yet tonight, in front of everyone, he had openly defended Amelia. Later that evening, Eleanor invited Amelia into her study. Entering with a hint of apprehension, Amelia braced herself for whatever awaited. "Sit down, Amelia," Eleanor said, her tone more composed than usual. "I've been watching you since you entered Henry's life. I admit I had my doubts about you, but after tonight, I see that you genuinely bring him happiness." Amelia was taken aback by the unexpected acknowledgement, but remained gracious. "Thank you, Mrs. Blackwood. All I want is to do what's best for Henry and the family." Eleanor's lips curved into a rare, sincere smile. "Then continue to do so. Henry needs someone like you, and now I believe you're capable of that." That night, as they returned home, Amelia rested her head against Henry's shoulder, feeling a weight lift from her chest. "You shut them down completely," she said, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I always will," Henry replied, his eyes filled with unwavering affection. "No one has the right to hurt you. They may try to come between us, but you and we're stronger than that." Looking into his eyes, Amelia saw nothing but sincerity. In that moment, she knew their love had weathered its first true test. And though the past might try to resurface again, with Henry by her side, she felt certain that nothing could shake the bond they were building together. Chapter 6. True Love. Henry had spent months meticulously planning their official wedding, a grand ceremony at the Blackwood family castle in Scotland, where he had grown up. Nestled amidst rolling green hills and crystal-clear lochs, the castle stood as a testament to the family's heritage, and a perfect venue to cement Amelia's place as an integral part of their lives. The wedding day dawned with the soft warmth of a spring sun. The castle was adorned with white roses and pastel blue accents, symbolizing renewal and hope. Friends, family, and a handful of distinguished guests gathered, dressed impeccably in elegant attire. Every gaze turned toward Amelia as she emerged, wearing a wedding gown of her own design. The dress, a stunning blend of classic and contemporary styles, showcased her creativity and individuality. Standing at the end of the aisle, Henry couldn't take his eyes off her. As she drew closer, his heartbeat quickened, his love for her radiating through his every expression. Amelia held her bouquet tightly, her emotions swirling as she approached him. "You're more beautiful than I ever imagined," Henry whispered as she took her place beside him. The ceremony unfolded under the golden hues of the setting sun, each word spoken heavy with meaning. "Amelia," Henry began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "you came into my life when I least expected it, yet exactly when I needed you the most. I promise to protect, cherish, and stand by you, no matter where life takes us." Tears glistened in Amelia's eyes as she responded, "Henry, you've shown me that true love isn't about perfection, but about sincerity and patience. I vow to face every challenge with you and to be your rock, just as you've been mine." They exchanged rings, symbols of an unending bond, and as the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Henry leaned down to kiss Amelia. The sweetness of that moment drew cheers and applause from the guests. The reception was held in the castle's sprawling garden, illuminated by twinkling fairy lights hanging from ancient trees. Amelia and Henry shared their first dance, swaying to the soft strains of a piano, their gazes locked in an unspoken promise. Guests celebrated joyfully, but what moved Amelia most was Eleanor Blackwood's unexpected gesture. In a quiet moment, Eleanor approached her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I once doubted you," she admitted, her voice softer than Amelia had ever heard. "But now I see why Henry chose you. You've brought happiness not only to him, but to this family. I'm proud to call you my daughter-in-law." Amelia's smile trembled with emotion as she embraced Eleanor. No compliment could mean more than those heartfelt words. A year later, Amelia and Henry welcomed a beautiful baby girl, naming her Lily Eleanor Blackwood, a tribute to Amelia's vibrancy and the Blackwood legacy. Holding his daughter in his arms, Henry's eyes gleamed with joy and pride. Amelia flourished in her career, becoming a global icon in the fashion world. Her collection, aptly named Rebirth, drew from her own journey and captivated audiences worldwide. Each piece told a story of overcoming pain, discovering love, and rising anew from the ashes of despair. Together, Henry and Amelia built a life filled with laughter, love, and meaning. Though challenges arose, they faced them hand in hand, learning and growing alongside each other. For them, happiness wasn't found in wealth or status, but in the simple act of prioritizing one another above all else. Sometimes the most impulsive decisions in unforeseen moments lead to doors we never imagined opening. For Amelia and Henry, true love wasn't about flawlessness, but about an ever-evolving journey of learning, sharing, and loving. And in that journey, they found something far more valuable than anything else: everlasting happiness. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Let us know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. What type of stories would you like to hear next? Don't forget to like, share this story, and subscribe to our channel for more. Perched atop a hill in Napa Valley, the Harrington Mansion stood like a solitary fortress amidst lush vineyards, its entrance framed by ancient olive trees. From the outside, the grand house symbolized the extraordinary success of James Harrington, a tech genius who had single-handedly built a billion-dollar empire. But within its cold marble walls, a heavy silence lingered, mirroring the somber mood of its owner. Once a symbol of ambition and innovation, James had been featured on the covers of every major tech magazine. However, a private plane crash a year ago changed everything. Although he had survived, James suffered a severe spinal injury that left him paralyzed. His life was now confined to a wheelchair, with relentless pain serving as a constant reminder of what he had lost. From a dynamic and charismatic man, James had become a shadow of his former self. He shut himself away in self-pity, rejecting all help and expending his remaining energy, driving away anyone who tried to approach him. Numerous nurses had come and gone, none able to endure his cold and caustic demeanor. That morning, James sat motionless by the large window in his study, his vacant gaze fixed on the breathtaking hills of Napa Valley. Even the majestic scenery could not soothe the emptiness inside him. A soft knock on the door pulled him out of his thoughts. Mr. Harrington, the calm voice of Mr. Peterson, his longtime butler, called from the doorway. The new nurse has arrived. Her name is Elise Carter. Without turning around, James replied coldly, I don't need a new nurse. Send her away. Sir, I believe Miss Carter might make a difference. It's time you accepted professional support, Peterson responded patiently, unfazed by James's attitude. And may I remind you that your doctor has emphasized this is not optional, but a requirement. James let out a heavy sigh, but didn't argue further. Turning his wheelchair around, his eyes darkened. Fine, bring her in, but don't expect me to do anything else. Within a minute, the door opened and Elise Carter entered. She was a young woman, slender yet exuding an air of confidence. With her neatly tied hair and sharp, determined eyes, Elise seemed unfazed by the cold gaze James directed at her. Her immaculate nurse's uniform radiated professionalism and precision. Good morning, Mr. Harrington, Elise greeted, her voice warm but firm. Thank you for agreeing to meet me. James remained silent for a few seconds, his eyes scanning Elise with a critical look. What makes you think you'll be any different from the others? Elise smiled, unshaken. I'm not here to argue or convince you, Mr. Harrington. I only hope we can work together to improve your quality of life. But even if you choose not to cooperate, I will still do my job well. Her confidence and calm demeanor took James by surprise. Instead of lashing out as he usually did, he merely smirked. Let's see how long you last. Elise nodded, unfazed by his hostility. I'll start setting up the therapy equipment now. We can discuss the plan when you're ready. As Elise left the room to prepare, Peterson approached James with a subtle smile. I have a feeling she won't give up as easily as the others, sir. James didn't respond, his gaze following Elise's confident stride. Part of him felt irritated, but a long-forgotten part, buried deep beneath layers of bitterness, felt a twinge of curiosity. And so, the fateful encounter between James Harrington and Elise Carter began, marking the start of a journey filled with challenges, transformation, and hope. Welcome to today's story. Let us know in the comments which city you're listening from. You might find someone from the same place tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. James Harrington was not one to easily accept help, especially from Elise Carter, the new nurse who exuded determination and enthusiasm. In the early days, James refused every exercise Elise suggested. Sitting in his wheelchair, his eyes brimming with frustration and bitterness, he constantly ridiculed her efforts. Do you really think these tiny movements will make me stand and walk again? Ridiculous. Elise, despite being irritated by James's attitude, maintained her calm tone. It's not about what I think, it's about what I know, but it will only happen if you're willing to try. James didn't reply, instead turning toward the window where sunlight filtered through the trees, signaling the end of the conversation. Elise knew that James was building an emotional fortress around himself, but she wasn't one to give up easily. Every day she visited him, patiently laying out the therapy plan and persistently encouraging him to participate. She even brought humorous anecdotes to lighten the heavy atmosphere. One day when James completely ignored her, Elise set down the therapy equipment and spoke with a tone of challenge. You can refuse to do these exercises. That's your choice. But don't think I'll give up. You're not the only one who's ever felt this way. Elise shared a deeply personal story about her father, who had been paralyzed on one side after a severe stroke. He rejected everything. He didn't want to see anyone, talk to anyone, or try anything. But little by little, I helped him overcome it. Her voice softened as she continued. I'm not saying this to win you over. I'm telling you because I've seen it happen. People can change if they dare to try. The question isn't whether you can stand, but whether you want to. For the first time, James turned to look at Elise. He didn't say a word, but a flicker of confusion crossed his face. a crack in his otherwise impenetrable armor. Elise's words seemed to strike a chord with James. The next day, he reluctantly agreed to try the therapy sessions. Though she couldn't hide her satisfaction, Elise kept her reaction professional. She guided James through basic exercises, stretching his arms and gently moving his legs. While James was visibly disinterested, he followed her instructions. Each day, Elise pushed James a little further, step by step. After weeks of persistence, James discovered that he could lift his legs slightly without much assistance. Though a small victory, it was his first achievement since the accident. One day, Elise asked James, "What made you start your tech company in the first place?" James's expression softened, tinged with nostalgia. He shared his youthful dream of creating technology that could transform lives. He mentioned an idea he'd once had, developing devices to assist people with disabilities, a dream he had never pursued. Elise's eyes lit up as she smiled and said, "You can still do it. The question isn't whether you can, but whether you'll face the fear of failing." Her words lingered in James's mind, leaving a profound impact. As James gradually progressed physically, external pressures began to mount. His company's shareholders started pushing to replace him, doubting his ability to lead. The media further exacerbated his isolation, labeling him a fallen genius. James felt as though the world was against him. One day, Elise found James sitting in his study, staring blankly at documents for selling his company. Her voice was filled with concern as she asked, "Are you really going to give everything up? Everything you built? Everything you said you wanted? Are you ready to throw it all away?" James snapped, standing up from his wheelchair and leaning against the desk for support. "You don't understand what I'm dealing with? You think you know what's best for me? You know nothing." James's harsh words deeply hurt Elise. She didn't react immediately, but looked at him for a long moment before saying, "Maybe you're right. I don't understand, but I tried, and it seems that doesn't mean anything to you." That day, Elise packed her belongings and left. Before leaving, she placed a short letter on James's desk, which read, "Sometimes true strength isn't about conquering everything, but daring to stand, even if it's just one small step." James found the letter after her departure. He held it in his hands, his heart heavy with regret, pain, and loneliness. The house felt emptier than ever, and James realized the void Elise's absence had created. The silence around him now mirrored the turmoil within. The mansion, once a fortress James Harrington used to shield himself from the world, now felt emptier than ever. Elise's absence left a void that nothing could fill. James missed the days when Elise tirelessly encouraged him to exercise, her voice firm yet laced with humor as she countered his sarcastic remarks. In the days following Elise's departure, James did little more than sit by the window, staring at the garden where Elise had once urged him to step outside. Loneliness and regret slowly ate away at his pride. One evening, James opened a drawer and found the letter Elise had left. He read and reread the final words. "Sometimes true strength isn't about conquering everything, but daring to stand, even if it's just one small step." These words struck a blow to James's pride. He realized he had spent too much time wallowing in bitterness rather than trying to change. Elise had been right. He had never truly attempted to take even a single step forward. One day, Peterson, James's loyal butler, left a newspaper article on his desk. The article detailed James's career accomplishments, from his early entrepreneurial days to building a leading tech empire. What moved James the most wasn't the mentions of his fame or wealth, but the article's closing statement. James Harrington is not just an innovator, but an inspiration, a man who has shown the world that technology can not only change lives, but save them. These words reignited a sense of responsibility within James. He had once believed he could change the world, and now he realized he couldn't abandon that dream. James decided to try again. He returned to the training room, the space where Elise had once patiently guided him, and began anew, this time without anyone by his side. Initially, every movement was an agonizing challenge. The pain from his spinal injury made him want to quit numerous times. But James recalled Elise's words. "No one expects you to be perfect. They just need you to try a little more each day." He reminded himself that if Elise believed in him, he had to believe in himself too. After months of relentless training, James reached an important milestone. He managed to stand up from his wheelchair unaided, even if only for a few seconds. That brief moment was enough to reignite hope within him. James continued pushing himself. Over time, he could navigate his wheelchair independently, without assistance. This progress not only improved his physical strength, but also restored his confidence. The physical recovery also brought clarity to James's mind. He no longer saw himself as a victim of circumstances, but began viewing the accident as an opportunity to accomplish something greater. James decided to revisit the dream he had once shared with Elise, developing medical devices to aid rehabilitation. He spent weeks working tirelessly, designing and refining prototypes. He also reached out to former colleagues, sharing his ideas and persuading them to join his cause. James's passion and determination won over even those who had doubted him. James chose to unveil his initiative at a major press conference. Appearing in public for the first time since the accident, James was still in his wheelchair, but his demeanor had transformed entirely. He began his speech by sharing his personal story. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. But through it all, I've realized that not everyone has the chance to stand again after a setback, but we can create opportunities to ensure they never face it alone." James introduced his plans to build centers equipped with advanced medical devices, from intelligent walking aids to technologies that assist people with disabilities in their rehabilitation. He emphasized, "This project isn't just about me. It's about everyone who has ever thought they had no chance. I want to prove that everyone deserves a second chance." James's story quickly captured public attention. People admired not only his resilience, but also the sincerity behind his project's mission. The press conference ended with a prolonged round of applause. For the first time in months, James felt as though he had rediscovered his purpose in life. One morning, Elise received a package from James Harrington. Inside was a formal letter accompanied by documents detailing the medical device project James was developing. In the letter, James wrote, "Elise, this project cannot be completed without you. You helped me regain the strength to stand, and I believe that with your help, we can change many lives. I don't just need a nurse, I need a partner who understands the heart and mind of this project. James Harrington." Elise set the letter down, her heart overwhelmed with emotion. She knew she had left because of the hurt, but now James had changed. She decided to accept his invitation. Elise arrived at the project's office where James was waiting for her. When she entered the meeting room, she saw James skillfully maneuvering his wheelchair without assistance. "James!" she exclaimed, unable to hide her surprise. James stopped, smiling warmly at her. "Elise, thank you for coming. Seeing you here makes everything feel right again." Elise looked at him, both moved and proud. "You've come so far since the last time we met. I'm truly happy for you." James nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you. Every word, every exercise you taught me, it all stayed with me. And I need you to help me complete this project, not just as a nurse, but as a true partner." Elise, touched by James's sincerity, couldn't refuse. "All right," she said, "I'll help you." From the day Elise returned, they spent most of their time working together at the project center. Elise was responsible for ensuring that the medical devices met patients' needs, while James focused on technological innovations. They often had lively discussions about optimizing designs and treatment processes. During these moments, James saw Elise not only as an excellent collaborator, but also as someone who shared a deep connection with his thoughts and spirit. One time, while reviewing the design of a walking aid, Elise laughed as she watched James meticulously adjust every tiny detail. "You used to say you didn't care about minor details, and now here you are, measuring every millimeter," she teased. James smiled warmly, his eyes soft. "I've learned from you that sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference." When work paused, they often spent time talking outside the center. One evening, under the dim glow of garden lights, James and Elise sat together. "Elise," James began, his voice deep and sincere, "you didn't just help me walk again, you helped me see the meaning of life." Elise looked at James, sensing the truth in his words. "James, you did all of this on your own. I only reminded you that you could." James shook his head. "No, Elise. You didn't just remind me. You lit the way when I couldn't see anything but darkness." Both began to realize that their relationship went beyond work. Elise felt her heart warm every time James looked at her with trust and admiration. And James, though he didn't say it aloud, knew that Elise was not only his greatest motivation, but also someone he wanted by his side forever. One day, while discussing plans to expand the medical center to a new location, James looked at Elise and said, "Elise, this project hasn't just changed the lives of others. It's changed me, and it's all because of you." Elise smiled gently, her heart racing, but she didn't respond immediately, choosing instead to return to work, knowing that both of them needed time to fully understand their feelings. The first medical center established by James and Elise officially opened during a grand inaugural ceremony. The building was modern, accessible, and equipped with cutting-edge rehabilitation devices developed by James and his team. Hundreds of patients and their families attended the event, seeking hope and witnessing James's inspiring story. Elise stood beside James, smiling as she saw the joy in the eyes of those testing the devices for the first time. In his speech, James emotionally stated, "This center is not just a building. It is a reminder that no matter where you are on your journey, there is always hope and people willing to help." The media widely covered the project, praising James's perseverance in overcoming adversity and his dedication to benefiting the community. The center quickly received funding from major organizations, paving the way for the project's expansion. 1 year later, the second medical center was inaugurated in another city. The ceremony was held outdoors in the lush campus of the new center. James, still using a wheelchair, had prepared a special speech to thank everyone. As he finished his address, James unexpectedly set down the microphone and said, "Before concluding this ceremony, I want to share something special with someone very special." Slowly, he stood from his wheelchair, leaning lightly on a support cane. The audience gasped in amazement as James took a few steady steps toward Elise, who was standing at the center of the stage. When he reached her, James knelt down and pulled a ring from his pocket. His voice trembled with emotion as he said, "Elise, my entire life, I've sought solutions to problems. But you are not a problem. You are the answer I didn't know I needed. Will you marry me?" Elise couldn't hold back her tears. Nodding repeatedly, she replied, "Yes, James, I will." Applause and cheers erupted across the stage. In that moment of happiness, James slipped the ring onto Elise's finger, stood up, and embraced her as the audience blessed them with their heartfelt support. A few months later, James and Elise's wedding was held at the new medical center. The venue, adorned with flowers and warm lighting, exuded a blend of simplicity and elegance. The most touching moment was when James walked down the aisle on his own, taking just a few short but powerful steps that brought many guests to tears. Elise waited for him at the end of the aisle, her eyes filled with pride and love. As he took Elise's hand, James softly said, "We've come a long way together, and I can't wait to begin the next chapter with you." They exchanged their vows in the presence of family, friends, and the patients whose lives had been changed by their project. After the wedding, James and Elise continued working tirelessly to expand their initiative. Their medical centers not only provided rehabilitation, but also became hubs for training healthcare professionals, spreading the shared values of humanity and compassion they both upheld. One afternoon, standing on the balcony of the center, James and Elise looked down at the courtyard where patients were using the new equipment. The laughter of children and the first steps of individuals regaining mobility filled the air with joy and hope. James spoke in his deep, warm voice. "Elise, there was a time when I thought my life ended with that accident, but you showed me it was only the beginning." Elise smiled and took his hand. "And we will keep building, not just for others, but for ourselves too." Now married, James and Elise continued to stand side by side, not only as partners in work, but also in life. Their love not only helped them overcome their challenges, but also inspired thousands of others. Looking toward the future, they knew recovery wasn't just physical. It stemmed from love, determination, and an unyielding belief in a brighter tomorrow. The story conveys profound lessons about resilience, love, and compassion. James's determination demonstrates the power within us to overcome life's greatest challenges. Elise's patience and support show how the right companion at the right time can change someone's life. Their love proves that together, two people can conquer anything. Above all, James's decision to use his success to help the community highlights the importance of living a life dedicated to others. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Let us know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. What type of stories would you like to hear next? Don't forget to like, share this story, and subscribe to our channel for more. Apologies for the oversight. Here is the corrected translation. The city of Edinburgh, Scotland, appears like a classic painting in the grey mist of rain. The cobblestone streets reflect the faint light from vintage-style lampposts, creating a scene that is both romantic and somber. Edinburgh Castle stands proudly atop Castle Rock, like a guardian of history, immovable amidst the passage of time and the hustle of the modern world. It was an autumn evening in 2023 when a major storm swept through the city. Cold winds scattered the last golden leaves of the season, and rain poured down as if trying to erase every trace of human presence. Amid this storm, two people with different stories accidentally met at Rosewood Manor, an old hotel nestled on the outskirts of the city. A sleek black Bentley driven by Alexander Reed glided slowly along the waterlogged roads outside Edinburgh. The windshield wipers worked tirelessly, yet Alexander's view remained obscured by the thick curtain of rain. He felt pressure closing in from all sides. Over the past weeks, his name had been splashed across financial newspapers, linked to a scandal involving the company he led. As a young and ambitious CEO, Alexander had poured his heart and soul into building his career, but now he couldn't help but question, was it all worth it? Lost in thought, a light from a roadside building caught his attention. A faint sign emerged through the rain. Rosewood Manor. With no other options, Alexander turned in and parked on the gravel driveway in front of the hotel. He stepped out, the cold rain immediately seeping through his tailored suit, but he didn't care. All he wanted was a place to take refuge. The lobby of Rosewood Manor exuded warmth, a stark contrast to the storm raging outside. A large fireplace roared with flames, the flickering light dancing across the dark wooden walls. A soft golden glow emanated from a vintage chandelier, creating a serene and nostalgic atmosphere. Velvet green armchairs were arranged near the fireplace, inviting guests to relax and read. Alexander walked in, water dripping from his soaked hair and coat. He intended to head straight to the reception desk, but was drawn to a woman sitting by a large window. She wore a thick gray sweater, her brown hair falling naturally over her shoulders. Before her was a large canvas, and her skilled hands moved the brush with slow yet deliberate strokes. Sophia Carter, an American artist, looked up at the sound of unfamiliar footsteps. She had been staying here for nearly a week, soaking in the tranquility of Edinburgh while seeking inspiration for her new art collection. The man who had just entered carried an entirely different energy. He looked as though he was shouldering the weight of the world, yet his piercing blue eyes held a sadness that was difficult to name. She offered a small smile as if to dispel the heavy aura he carried. "Escaping the storm, are we?" she said, her voice light but tinged with humor. Alexander turned, surprised by the stranger's friendliness. "Yes, and I think I've just found the safest place in Edinburgh," he replied dryly but with sincerity. They began with casual small talk, but within minutes, their conversation grew deeper. Sophia asked, "Have you ever thought that the things we chase are just to please others?" Alexander paused, looking deeply into her eyes. It was a question he had never dared to ask himself. "I think sometimes I chase it so hard that I forget myself," he admitted, his voice almost breaking. Sophia nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. "I used to feel that way," she said, "but then I realized, if I don't live authentically, I'll never find joy or meaning in what I do." In the dim light of the fireplace and the steady sound of rain outside the window, Alexander felt, for the first time in weeks, that he could let his shoulders relax and his mind find peace. Welcome to today's story. Let us know which city you're tuning in from by leaving a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to never miss out on meaningful videos. The sound of raindrops pattering against the glass roof of Rosewood Manor signaled a new day. The storm had not completely subsided, but it had softened into a gentle drizzle, mingling with the mist that shrouded the hotel grounds. The dim autumn morning light rendered everything like an ink painting, exuding a serene yet somber tranquility. Alexander sat by the large window in the dining room, a cup of hot coffee in hand. His eyes absent-mindedly gazed outside, where raindrops trickled down vibrant red maple leaves. His mind lingered on last night's conversation with Sophia. Her question had not only made him think, but had also stirred a deep sense of unease, as if she had seen through the facade he had been trying so hard to maintain. Sophia entered the room, her brown hair loosely tied back. She wore a green coat, and her black rubber boots were speckled with rain. The gentle smile on her face seemed to brighten the entire space. She approached his table without hesitation and asked, "Would you like to take a walk around the garden? It's more beautiful in the rain than you'd think." Alexander was momentarily taken aback. He hadn't expected someone he barely knew to speak to him so naturally. After a brief hesitation, he nodded. "I suppose I could use some fresh air, even if it smells like rain." They stepped into the back garden of the hotel. It was an old, meticulously tended garden with cobblestone paths, lush greenery, and rose bushes glistening with dew. In the soft rain, the garden exuded an enchanting beauty, as if it had come straight out of a fairy tale. "This is where I often come to paint," Sophia said, gesturing toward a corner of the garden where a wooden bench sat beneath a maple tree. "I don't know why, but rain always makes everything feel more alive. The colors, the light, even the emotions." Alexander gave a rare smile, a fleeting moment of relaxation. "It's so different from my world. I've never thought of rain as anything but an inconvenience." Sophia turned to look at him. "Maybe you're just seeing it from the wrong perspective. Sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest power. That's why I paint." As they strolled along the gravel path, Sophia shared her story. Born into a wealthy family in New York, she had been expected to take over her parents' business. But from a young age, she had loved art. Her passion eventually led to conflict with her family, especially when she decided to drop out of business school to pursue a career as a painter. "My parents thought art was just a hobby, not a career," she said, her tone calm but tinged with bitterness. "They told me no one makes a living off dreams. But I didn't care. I couldn't give up painting. It's the only way I feel truly alive." Alexander listened silently, her words like quiet waves lapping at his consciousness. He began to notice the difference between them. Sophia had the courage to give up everything to live authentically, while he had spent his life chasing the expectations of others. His family, friends, the board of directors. He had never once asked himself what he truly wanted. The conflict within Alexander began to grow. When Sophia paused in front of a bush of white daisies, bending down to gently touch the dew-covered petals, Alexander broke the silence as if to shatter the tension in the air. "Aren't you afraid of going against everyone's expectations?" Sophia straightened up and looked him directly in the eye. "Of course I'm afraid, but I'm even more afraid of living a life that doesn't belong to me. What about you, Alexander? What scares you the most?" Alexander didn't answer immediately. He looked at Sophia, sensing the sincerity in her gaze, then turned to the garden before them. In that moment, he realized that his greatest fear wasn't failure or losing others' respect. It was losing himself. They continued walking in silence, the only sounds being the gentle rain and their footsteps on the gravel path. But for Alexander, everything had changed. Sophia wasn't just an artist with intriguing stories. She was the first person who made him confront the emotions he had long buried. The rain continued to drizzle outside Rosewood Manor that afternoon, draping the hotel grounds in a somber gray. Sophia sat in the grand lobby, a warm cup of tea in her hands, her eyes skimming over the unfinished sketches before her. Yet her mind was not truly there. She recalled the morning conversation with Alexander, the way he avoided deep questions about himself, and the worries etched so clearly on his face. When Alexander appeared at the entrance to the lobby, his appearance was tidy, but his gait and eyes betrayed the heaviness he was trying to conceal. He carried a laptop, as if he had just finished working, but upon noticing Sophia, he paused, seemingly deliberating something. After a few seconds of hesitation, he walked over. "Can you help me with something?" Alexander asked, his voice deep and weary. "What is it?" Sophia responded, raising an eyebrow, surprised by his directness. "I need a quiet place to think. Perhaps you know of somewhere suitable in the grounds." Sophia gave a slight smile. "I know just the place. Follow me." Sophia led Alexander to a secluded corner of the hotel grounds, where a small greenhouse was hidden amidst dense shrubs. The glass panes, streaked with raindrops, created a private and tranquil atmosphere. Inside, the greenhouse was adorned with lush ferns and an old wooden table and chairs. Sophia gestured to a chair. "You can sit here." Alexander placed his laptop on the table, but instead of opening it, he looked at Sophia and said, "It's strange. I don't usually talk about personal matters with others, but with you, I feel like I can." Sophia remained silent, waiting for him to continue. After a long pause, Alexander sighed, his gaze distant as he looked through the veil of rain. "My company," he began, his voice heavy, "is in chaos. We've just been caught in a major scandal. One branch invested in a dubious real estate project. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs when the project failed. Although I wasn't directly involved in that project, the responsibility ultimately falls on me. I'm the CEO, and I have to bear the consequences." Sophia looked at him, saying nothing, just listening. "My family, the board, the media, they're all pressing down on me. They expect me to fix everything, but I don't know how. I feel like I'm caught in a storm with no way out." Sophia set her tea down and looked directly at Alexander. "Have you ever thought that sometimes to get out of a storm, you need to stand still and let it pass instead of trying to fight it?" Alexander frowned, clearly not understanding her point. "What I mean," she continued, "is that sometimes you have to accept that you can't control everything. Fixing mistakes is important, but you'll never find peace if you keep trying to live in a world that doesn't truly belong to you." Alexander mulled over her words. "Are you saying I should give up everything?" he asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. "Not give up," Sophia replied. "Start over, break everything down and rebuild it in a way you believe is right. But first, you have to be honest with yourself." Alexander fell silent, his eyes dropping to his tightly clasped hands. He wasn't sure what to do with Sophia's advice, but for the first time, he felt a faint glimmer of clarity in the foggy chaos of his mind. Sophia wasn't just challenging him to rethink everything he was trying so hard to protect. She was forcing him to question what he truly wanted in life. Sophia smiled gently, lightly touching his arm. "You're not alone in this, Alexander. Whatever you decide, remember that no one lives without making mistakes. What matters is how we rise from them." Alexander lifted his head and, for the first time, smiled back at her. It wasn't a smug or guarded smile, but a genuine one, as if he had found a missing piece to the puzzle of his life. That evening, Rosewood Manor was bathed in warm light. The hotel's grand lobby was adorned with flickering candles and small bouquets placed on antique wooden tables. A corner of the room had been cleared to make a stage for a small concert, where a violinist and a pianist were preparing to perform. The guests, mostly those staying to escape the storm, gathered in small groups, sipping wine and chatting softly. Sophia entered the room, her slender figure draped in a cream-colored knitted dress. Her eyes scanned the room, searching for Alexander, someone she thought unlikely to attend an event like this. But then she saw him, standing in the far corner, wearing a gray blazer. His composed demeanor couldn't hide the searching look in his eyes. She approached him with a gentle smile. "You made it," she said, her voice soft but carrying a hint of joy. Alexander shrugged, but a faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "I thought I could use a change of pace." The concert began, the poignant notes of the violin intertwining with the delicate keys of the piano, filling the space with a cascade of emotions. The music blended seamlessly with the sound of raindrops against the windows, creating an atmosphere of unparalleled romance. Sophia and Alexander sat beside each other, saying nothing, yet a sense of extraordinary calm enveloped them both. Alexander glanced at Sophia, her face softly illuminated by the nearby candlelight. Her eyes seemed lost in the melodies, her expression serene. "It's strange," Alexander murmured after a long silence. "I've never felt this relaxed, even while doing nothing at all." Sophia tilted her head, her smile softening further. "That's the power of music, and sometimes silence is the best way to connect." After the performance, the guests began to disperse, but Sophia led Alexander to a wooden table where she had set out a small watercolor kit and some drawing paper. Alexander looked at her in surprise. "We're going to paint?" he asked, half amused. Yes, Sophia replied with a playful glint in her eyes. But not just anything. I want us to paint how we perceive each other. Alexander chuckled lightly, his gaze flickering with curiosity. You really want to know what I think of you? Absolutely, Sophia said, placing a sheet of paper before him. But don't take it too seriously. Just paint with your feelings. It doesn't have to be accurate. They began painting in silence, the only sounds being the brushes gliding across the paper and the soft rhythm of the rain outside. Alexander, not naturally skilled at painting, focused intently, trying to express his feelings through color and form. Sophia, in contrast, painted with swift, confident strokes as if pouring her soul onto the paper. When they finished, Sophia smiled and asked, "Will you show me yours first?" Alexander pushed his paper toward her. The painting depicted a woman standing in the midst of a stormy night, surrounded by golden beams of light, radiant like the sun breaking through the clouds. Rain fell around her, but her light remained unyielding, growing stronger despite the storm. Sophia stared at the painting, her voice trembling slightly. "You think I'm the light?" "You are the light in my stormy night," Alexander said, his voice deep and earnest. "You've made me realize that even in the darkest moments, there's something to hold on to." Sophia remained silent, her eyes filled with complex emotions. After a moment, she slid her own painting toward Alexander. In her depiction, Alexander appeared as a strong man with broad shoulders and resolute eyes. Yet invisible strings coiled around him, binding his body and holding him back from moving forward. "This is how I see you," Sophia said softly. "You're strong, determined, but you're trapped by the strings you've created for yourself." Alexander stared at the painting, feeling as though she had stripped away all the layers he had tried to hide behind. But instead of resisting, he gave a bittersweet smile. "You truly see right through me." "And you can break those strings," Sophia said, her gaze unwavering, "if you want to." In the flickering candlelight, Alexander and Sophia looked at each other, no more words needed. Both understood that, despite the short time they had known each other, they had shared moments of honesty that even years couldn't forge. That night, as they left the hotel lobby, the rain continued to fall, but it no longer felt cold. Each carried the other's painting, a reminder of the connection they had discovered. The next morning, faint sunlight filtered through the trees, signaling that the storm had completely passed. The air around Rosewood Manor was still, as if the place itself was waiting for something new to unfold. Alexander woke up feeling a heavy weight on his chest, but within him was a clarity he had never experienced before. Alexander sat in the grand lobby of the hotel, his phone placed in front of him. He had spent the entire morning drafting a speech he planned to deliver to the board of directors at the emergency meeting the next day. It was a speech he knew would change everything, not just for the company, but for himself as well. Sophia entered, holding a cup of hot tea. She looked at Alexander, her eyes questioning. "Are you okay?" Alexander looked up, his eyes reflecting a determination Sophia hadn't seen before. "I think I finally know what I need to do. I can't keep running anymore. I'm going to face the board, admit the mistakes, and commit to changing how the company operates." Sophia pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "That's a big decision," she said, her voice gentle yet encouraging. "But I believe you can do it." Alexander smiled faintly, a hint of relief crossing his face. "You were right. I can't find peace if I keep living in a world that doesn't feel like my own. I need to do this, not for my family or the board, but for myself, so that I can look in the mirror without feeling ashamed." Sophia listened quietly, then smiled. "I've made a decision of my own," she said. Alexander raised an eyebrow. "What decision?" "I'm going back to the US, Sophia replied. "I've completed my collection of paintings inspired by Scotland. It's time to bring them to the world, starting with a small gallery in New York. I've dreamed about this for so long, and now I feel ready." Alexander fell silent, a trace of sadness flickering in his eyes. But he nodded, understanding that this was what Sophia needed to do. "That's an amazing step," he said sincerely. "You have a special talent, Sophia. I'm certain people will see that." Sophia smiled softly. "Thank you, Alexander. You have no idea how much that means to me." That evening, as soft yellow lights illuminated the hotel's garden, Alexander and Sophia took one last walk together. They strolled slowly along the gravel paths, letting the crimson maple leaves drift gently around them. "Do you know what surprises me?" Sophia suddenly asked. "What?" Alexander turned to her. "You," she said, her voice full of emotion. "When we met, I thought you were just a man overwhelmed by work. But in truth, you're someone with so much depth and courage. I think even you don't realize it." Alexander smiled, tilting his head slightly as he looked at her. "Maybe you're right, but maybe I've only realized it because of you. Sophia, you've helped me rediscover who I truly am." Sophia stopped walking, her gaze meeting his. "I'm glad I could help you." Alexander remained silent for a moment, then spoke, his voice low but sincere. "I don't want to lose touch with you, Sophia. You're the only person who makes me feel like I can be better." Sophia chuckled softly. "We won't lose touch, Alexander. I promise." The next day, Sophia stood in the hotel lobby, ready to leave for the U.S. Alexander stood beside her, his eyes clearly showing his reluctance to say goodbye. He wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. "You'll be fine, Alexander," Sophia said, as if reading his thoughts. "And I hope you'll find what you truly want in life." Alexander nodded and stepped forward to embrace her one last time. "Thank you, Sophia, for everything." She smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Goodbye, Alexander. Keep your promise." Sophia left, but what she had left behind in Alexander was an awakening. She was not just a friend, but someone who had opened a new door in his life. As her car disappeared from view, Alexander returned to the hotel, preparing for his journey back to London. A new chapter in his life had begun. The morning in London unfolded like a massive machine in constant motion. Alexander stood before the towering glass building, the company's headquarters. From there, he could see the hurried flow of people below, each step a reminder of the weight of responsibility he carried. Today was the day he would face the board of directors, present his reform plan, and take accountability for the scandal. Alexander could feel the pressure pressing down on his shoulders, but this time, he wasn't afraid. He had decided to live authentically, even if it meant risking everything. The conference room on the 25th floor was designed with minimalist elegance, featuring a long boardroom table and high-end leather chairs. The board members, faces marked by authority, experience, and calculation, sat on either side of the table, their eyes fixed on Alexander as he entered the room. "Shall we begin?" James Whitaker, the chairman of the board, said in a deep, commanding voice. He had been by Alexander's father's side during the company's early days and was one of the most vocal critics of Alexander's handling of the recent scandal. Alexander nodded, carrying a stack of documents as he stepped forward. But instead of opening them, he looked up, meeting the gaze of each member in the room. "First, I want to take responsibility for the current state of the company," Alexander began, his voice steady. "The recent scandal has not only damaged our reputation, but also cost many employees their jobs and trust, and I am ultimately accountable for that." The room fell silent. A few members appeared surprised by his candor. James, however, remained impassive, waiting for what would come next. "However," Alexander continued, "instead of placing blame or avoiding the issue, I want to propose a comprehensive reform plan, not just to address the fallout, but to rebuild our company culture, prioritizing transparency and social responsibility. This plan isn't just about restoring our reputation," he concluded, "but about ensuring we never repeat the mistakes of the past. I'm ready to face any consequences, but I hope you'll stand with me to make this company something we can all be proud of." The room was silent for several seconds. James Whitaker was the first to speak. "Alexander," he said, his tone stern, "this is a bold plan, but it's also fraught with risk. Are you certain you're capable of executing it?" Alexander met James's gaze without blinking. "I can't guarantee success, but I am certain this is the right thing to do, and I'm willing to risk everything to make it happen." Some board members began to exchange opinions, voicing support or skepticism. Surprisingly, Margaret Green, one of the most senior members known for her neutral stance, spoke up in favor. "We've been stuck in old ways for far too long," she said. "Perhaps it's time for a change. I support Alexander's plan." Gradually, voices of agreement started to ripple through the room. Even James Whitaker, though still cautious, eventually nodded. "I'll be watching your progress closely," he said. Let's hope you don't disappoint us." When the meeting concluded, Alexander stepped out of the boardroom feeling a sense of relief. This was only the first step in a long journey, but he felt proud for confronting the truth and choosing the right path. As he exited the building, he looked up at the clear London sky after the rain. Sophia's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes you have to break everything to rebuild it. And now he knew he had begun rebuilding, not just the company, but himself. New York, 1 year later. The city that never sleeps was now adorned with shimmering lights from thousands of skyscrapers. In a quiet corner of Manhattan, Sophia Carter's gallery, Lumina, was preparing for its opening night. This was her first exhibition after years of dedication, with the theme, Light in the Storm. Sophia, dressed in a pearl satin gown, stood in the midst of the impressive gallery space. Her paintings narrated stories of wounded souls, life's storms, and the light that emerges when they rediscover themselves. She watched everything with a mix of pride and nervousness, though a small corner of her heart remained tinged with sadness. Alexander, the man who had inspired her to create this collection, had not been in touch for the past year. Sophia reassured herself that she was fine, but deep down she still hoped to see him again. The exhibition began, and guests marveled at Sophia's work one by one. The soft golden light from the spotlights reflected off the paintings, making everything seem almost alive. Sophia engaged in conversations with each guest, but her mind kept drifting back to memories of Edinburgh. As the evening reached its peak, a man in a black suit entered, Alexander. He appeared calm, his eyes fixed on Sophia from the moment he saw her. Sophia froze when she noticed him, her heart racing. She hadn't expected him to come. They walked toward each other, their eyes communicating everything without needing words. "You're here," Sophia whispered, a faint smile playing on her lips. Alexander nodded, his eyes glowing in the light. "I've always wanted to be here." As the guests admired the artwork, the lights dimmed, then focused on a painting covered by a red cloth in the center of the gallery. Sophia turned, surprised to see Alexander stepping onto the platform, microphone in hand. "Thank you all for coming tonight to admire Sophia's incredible work," he began, his deep voice resonating in the room. "But there is one painting I'd like to introduce personally, because it's not just a piece of art, it's the beginning of everything." Alexander pulled away the red cloth, revealing the first painting they had created together at Rosewood Manor. It was Alexander's painting, Sophia as a beacon of light amidst a storm, displayed on an antique easel and encircled by a golden spotlight. Sophia stood frozen, unable to believe her eyes. Alexander turned to look at her, his gaze filled with emotion. "Sophia, you are the light in my storm. You helped me find myself when I was most lost. I don't want to spend another day without you by my side." He stepped down from the platform, kneeling before her and producing a small box. Inside was a simple yet elegant ring, with a teardrop-shaped diamond sparkling like the light in the painting. "Please," Alexander said, his voice trembling slightly, "let me walk this journey with you." Tears streamed down Sophia's cheeks. Without a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "Yes, Alexander, I will." Applause and cheers erupted from the guests in the gallery. Alexander stood, pulling Sophia into a tight embrace. In that moment, both knew they had found what they had been searching for, a place where they truly belonged. The evening ended in a moment as magical as a fairy tale. Amid the soft golden glow, Alexander and Sophia danced among the paintings that told their story. Gentle music played, and their eyes never left each other. Their painting, a symbol of their first connection, was no longer just a piece of art. It was a reminder of the power of love and empathy. Together, they had weathered their individual storms to find light not only in life, but in each other's hearts. A year later, in a picturesque garden on the outskirts of Edinburgh, where the brilliant autumn sunlight bathed fields of lavender, Alexander and Sophia celebrated their wedding. Sophia appeared in an elegant white gown, her eyes glowing with happiness, while Alexander stood at the altar, his gaze never leaving her. They held hands and exchanged vows. "You are the light in my storm. I promise to love you forever, through the sunny days and the stormy ones. And you are the one who made me believe that love can change everything. I promise to stand by you, always." As they exchanged rings, applause echoed throughout the garden. The reception took place in a space filled with glimmering golden lights. During their first dance, Alexander leaned down and whispered, "You've made me the best version of myself." "Thank you." Sophia smiled, her eyes shining brightly. "And you are the reason I continue to believe in miracles." Under a starlit sky, they began their new journey, together forever. This story teaches that true love is not just an emotion, but also a driving force that helps us overcome difficulties and rediscover ourselves. Alexander and Sophia demonstrated courage in facing their mistakes, living authentically and starting anew. Art and empathy connected them, helping both realize that happiness lies not in material success, but in staying true to one's heart. Pure love is the power that transforms and creates a more meaningful life. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Let us know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. What type of stories would you like to hear next? Don't forget to like, share this story, and subscribe to our channel for more.